Welcome to Specializations. This is for JavaScript or web development. My name is Michael Taggart. I'm a SME with Dev Mountain, and I'm making this video to help students maybe make the change to specializations. You have done foundations, you have some of these live lectures, and in specializations, you're going to there's going to be a big change, and it's going to hit you first on this first week how different specializations is from foundations. Firstly, you're not having a live lecture, you're going to be watching videos through Pluralsight. What this means is that you won't have that physical interaction with a teacher, which you are used to, and I'd say most people are. And so, what I have is for those of you who are adjusting to that, some tools to help make the most of this time that you have. So, first of all, this is the Dev Mountain Specializations, which you will be invited to. This is inside of the JavaScript web development section, which is the one that you should be able to see. Inside of tips and tricks channel, you should find a link here to this web dev self tracker. This is something I made. Feel free to use this if it's helpful, and don't if it's not. But I built this out. This is basically a copy of your program and what's going to happen each week on this program. Some things I wanted to show is you'll notice that it's listed per video is on each separate line. And then if it's all on the same day, it's spread out through that. And then any exercises is in these columns over here. I kind of gave you some idea of how much time you should be spending per day on videos, and also the total amount of video that you're going to consume each week, right? I think this is really important to understand. If you are like me and you learn better by doing, again, you're going to be watching a video, and some people really struggle with coding along and prefer to like get their hands dirty, so to say. So, so I'm going to give you some tips on doing that. First of all, I would recommend if you have an exercise for the day, look at that first. See what you're going to be building later that day. Next, if there are any SME supplements here that have links, you'll see some down here. If there are any SME supplements, feel free to watch those before your day begins. Maybe the night before. Look ahead, see what's coming up the next day and kind of what you're looking at. The SME supplement section on column L is going to have some useful information that might break things down a bit more for you. And then the second thing I would recommend is track how much time you're spending working on each project. It doesn't mean that what that means is that this is time that you're spending thinking and trying to work through an exercise. I understand that you're not gonna, and we don't expect you to get through every single thing on each one of these exercises, like completely cloning a basic website. Um, Maybe you don't get it done. I certainly didn't when I went through the boot camp, but that's not the point. The point is to work at it as much as you can. The time that you put in thinking about it is time that you're spending understanding your craft better, and that's what's important. So, tip that I wanted to give because someone said that ultimately watching videos was really a struggle for them. So here is another tip. I'd recommend playing through the videos, listening to that audio at least, even at a times two speed, and then at least spending 60% of your time working on this and asking questions rather than pausing and writing notes here. If you are a doer, if you work with your hands better, I'd suggest flipping this kind of equation a bit. Spend more, like read this up before you start the lecture, and then go through the lecture completely, and then spend time questioning and how does this work, and what is this that, and how does that like why is this doing this? You question over here rather than over here. A lot of people have struggles with that. I'm also going to share another tip that someone was asking, like, hey, I really don't work, I am not learning anything from watching the videos. And this is something that I shared with them, a tip. So first, I told them go to the Pluralsight, to the watch. This is a link to your Pluralsight video. It will bring you here. Um, this is, of course, the entire lecture. And so we're going to just go to the transcript here. Now, the first thing you want to do is read over this overview. Of course, this is in the video and there's transcript links here, and you can click on this and it will open up the video, right, at exactly where that's at. But my point is read through this to get an overview of what you're going to be learning, right? That's going to be perfect to get you started. Second, I told them, like, there should be in each one of these lectures, there should be some sort of like title on each paragraph, essentially. And this is what I kind of recommended for them. So go ahead and open up your terminal. This is for Mac. This would be your command line or command prompt on Windows, I believe. And I'm going to create a folder. I don't know if these commands are exactly the same on Windows, but I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to call it, how about first week notes. So this is a folder called first week notes. I'm going to cd into it. So now I'm in that folder. I'm going to create a file called Git, because that's what we're learning here. Getting started with Git. Now I could name that more specific, getting started with Git, but I'm going to just say Git .js. Now I'm going to open up my code editor with this command, code dot, to open up this file. And I'm going to write out comments here, and write in my code. Now why I recommend doing it here is because you can use Git, funny enough that we're learning about it, but you can use Git and update your GitHub with these comments, and maybe you can create a folder. Instead of first week, maybe you make a Dev Mountain folder, and all of your notes from Dev Mountain are on GitHub for you to review. That could be helpful for you. Another tip for this is I'm going to show you this extension called Better Comments. This extension is something that just helps you make different colors with your comments when you comment out code. And I'm going to just show you, I'm going to be using it, so I wanted to kind of show you that up front. So let's go back to our code here. It's going to update. All right. All right, so what I'm suggesting here is if you are having trouble completely learning from this, so let's read the overview, and then let's start grabbing, sorry about that, let me flip these two for a second. So let's start grabbing stuff like this. And what we could do is we could actually make a, so we got what is Git. Now the coffee shop analogy is probably something that they made up, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. Basically, just grab the title. Spend your first few, like this is going to take, what, just a few minutes here to go through. Grab each of these, copy and paste a bit. Okay, and I'm going to pause after this one. Okay, but what I do want you to do is, if you are going to use this method, I want you to do this. I want you to get the header of every single one. And what I want you to do is ask critical questions. If you're going to stimulate your own learning without reading through or listening to the lecture, then you need to be asking very critical questions. Like you're investigating, what the heck is Git? I'm going to ask another question. Why? And this is a question, whenever you're learning a new technology, what alternatives are there to Git? What does Git do? How many people use Git? Yeah, so there are questions like this, and then you could either listen to this, right? Or read through it and answer these questions as you go, and Google. So like, so you have the Pluralsight. I forgot that's going to do that. So you have the Pluralsight. These are resources that you have. Pluralsight is one. You can Google as much as you want. I think YouTube's an excellent resource personally. You get a lot of different stuff. Web, forget what it's called. Web, let's see. Yeah, this one. MDN, pretty much like whenever you're Googling like methods, this will be one of your first MDN web docs. But yeah, learning how to ask questions like this, you could copy and paste these and read up on this. But also, there's a great thing that we can do here as well. I'm going to put here resources. And then also, let's go ahead and build out example code if that's necessary. In this particular, this is explaining what it is. I don't think example code's necessary here particularly, but on some of these, like when you're staging 3 files, put in example code. Like write it out here, and like maybe what not to do. Like what? Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of examples of how it works. But make sure you write out your explanation for these. Git is a la 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 la, right? So this is what I would recommend when you go through. If you're having trouble sitting through and listening to lectures and you're not grabbing, you think, enough out of it, spend some time to set something like this up. And write it out, like search on your own and write example code on your own. Listen through it if you want, or do this, or do a mixture of both. But if you learn best by doing, I highly expect tons of example code of you writing some examples out of how stuff works and practicing it yourself. Like I said, push your changes up to your GitHub repository, and save your notes. And that does one thing: it makes your GitHub look like it's like you're updating it, because you are updating it every day, and that looks great. So just some tips of going through. I also you'll notice I'm building out some week overviews of what you're going to be learning. Again, just a brief overview of your week 1 I'm going to include here. Week 1 is basically, hey, do you understand Git? Do you understand GitHub? Do you understand JavaScript? And JavaScript's more on like Friday and Monday here. Do you understand JavaScript? Here's some things about that. How about HTML, CSS? Things that you're really probably familiar with, and we're just diving in a bit deeper. So just getting like familiar with those things because it's the building blocks of the library React that you're going to be learning from week 2 and week 3. This is pretty much React, which is a new thing that you're going to be learning. It's going to combine your HTML and your JavaScript files. And so this is just kind of like refresher and to dive in a little deeper. And then, of course, hit up these SME supplements on days. And that's my tips. I know you guys can do this. I came into boot camp not knowing a thing about coding, and I totally have faith in that you can totally do this boot camp. Just stay on track, work hard every day, put in the hours, make sure you're putting 4 hours or 3.5 to 4 hours into your exercises every day. Make sure you're hitting this number every day in lectures. You're spending the time, you're taking the time to learn, and you're sleeping, you're eating well, you're drinking fluids. It's all important. Um, and it's hard. It's going to be hard, but you can totally do it. I wish you the best, and I'll see you guys in the queue.